On the morning of April 30, 1943, a fisherman named José Antonio Rey Maria was checking his nets off the coast of Huelva, Spain. As he looked across the waves, he noticed something unusual floating near the shore. It was the body of a man, face down, still dressed in a British Royal Marines uniform. Around the man's wrist was a black leather briefcase, chained securely. The fisherman notified the authorities, and the Spanish Civil Guard retrieved the body from the surf. When the body was examined, the papers identified him as Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. The report said he had been the victim of a plane crash at sea. Inside his pockets were everyday items, receipts, ticket stubs, and letters from a fiancée named Pam. Everything about him appeared genuine, down to the smallest detail. But what captured the most attention was the briefcase chained to his wrist. Inside were secret documents that described Allied military operations in the Mediterranean. Spain was officially neutral during the war, but many of its officials were sympathetic to Nazi Germany. British diplomats immediately requested the papers be returned unopened, but by the time their request reached Madrid, the documents had already been copied and passed to German intelligence. The information was soon on its way to Berlin. The documents inside the briefcase revealed supposed Allied plans to invade Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily. To Adolf Hitler, this intelligence fit perfectly with his own expectations. He had long believed Greece would be the next target after North Africa. Now, it seemed the British had accidentally confirmed his theory. But the truth was far more remarkable. Major William Martin never existed. Months earlier, in London, British intelligence officers had been searching for ways to deceive the Germans. It was late 1942, and the Allies were preparing for a massive invasion of Europe through the Mediterranean. Their true target was Sicily, but they needed to draw German forces away. That was when a young Royal Air Force officer, Charles Cholmondeley, proposed an extraordinary plan. What if they planted fake invasion documents on a dead body and let the Germans discover it? It sounded outrageous, but Naval Intelligence Officer Ewan Montague believed it could work. Thus began Operation Mincemeat. The first challenge was finding the right body. It had to appear as though the man had drowned, and it had to be believable as a British officer. After weeks of searching, they found a man who fit the requirements, a 34-year-old Welshman named Glyndwr Michael, who had died after ingesting rat poison. He had no close family and would be unrecognized by the public. The intelligence team built an entire life around the body. They dressed him as Major William Martin of the Royal Marines and filled his pockets with personal items that would make his identity seem real. There were receipts for shirts from Jeeves and Hawkes, a bill for an engagement ring, theater tickets, and even love letters from his fiancée, Pam. Everything about him appeared genuine, down to the smallest detail. But what captured the most attention was the briefcase chained to his wrist. Inside were secret documents that described Allied military operations in the Mediterranean. By mid-April 1943, the preparations were complete. The body was placed in uniform, the briefcase chained to his wrist, and everything sealed for protection against seawater. On April 17, 1943, the British submarine HMS Seraph left Scotland, carrying the body. As dawn broke off the coast of Spain, the crew surfaced and read a short prayer. Then they released Major William Martin into the sea, allowing the tide to carry him toward the Spanish shore. Operation Mincemeat had begun.
When the body washed ashore near Huelva, events unfolded almost exactly as British intelligence had hoped. The Spanish authorities took possession of the body and the briefcase. Because many Spanish officers secretly favored the Germans, word quickly spread to German intelligence operatives in Spain. Within days, the documents were photographed and sent to the German embassy in Madrid, and from there they were forwarded to Berlin. The German intelligence service, the Abwehr, examined the documents carefully. To make sure they were genuine, they checked every small detail: the paper, the signatures, the military tone of the letters. Everything appeared consistent with genuine British correspondence. There was no sign of forgery or tampering. Even the ink and typewriter marks matched known British patterns. Nothing looked suspicious. When the reports reached Adolf Hitler's desk in early May 1943, he was convinced. The documents confirmed his belief that the Allies were planning to invade Greece and Sardinia. Hitler immediately ordered reinforcements to be sent to Greece. He shifted divisions of tanks, aircraft, and soldiers from France and the Balkans, moving them away from Sicily. He even directed that German U-boats patrol the eastern Mediterranean instead of the Sicilian coast. The deception was working perfectly. Back in London, Erwin Montagu and his team waited anxiously for news. They could not contact Spain directly or ask questions without revealing their involvement. They had to watch German military movements and intercept radio messages to see if the ruse had succeeded. Weeks passed before signs appeared. British intelligence began intercepting German communications that mentioned new defenses in Greece and Sardinia. It was the confirmation they needed. The fake Major William Martin had done his job. Meanwhile, the real invasion plans for Sicily, codenamed Operation Husky, moved forward in complete secrecy. On July 9, 1943, Allied forces, a massive armada of ships, planes, and landing craft, launched their assault on Sicily. The German defenses there were far weaker than expected. Most of the Luftwaffe aircraft had been moved out, and many soldiers had been redeployed to Greece. The element of surprise was total. As Allied troops poured ashore, British intelligence realized the full scale of their success. The deception had not only fooled the Germans, but had reshaped their entire Mediterranean defense strategy. Operation Mincemeat had saved countless Allied lives and shortened the campaign in Italy. Sicily fell within weeks, opening the road to the Italian mainland. It was one of the most brilliant acts of wartime deception ever carried out. While the military celebrated victory, the details of the operation remained one of Britain's most closely guarded secrets. Only a handful of people knew that the entire scheme had hinged on a single body, that of a man who had never been a soldier yet changed the course of the war. The true identity of Glyndwr Michael remained hidden from the public for decades.
In the months that followed, Operation Mincemeat remained classified. Officially, Major William Martin was recorded as a real officer who had died in service. He was buried with full military honors in the cemetery of Nuestra Señora de la Soledad in Huelva, Spain. His gravestone read simply, Major William Martin, Royal Marines, died April 24, 1943. Beloved son of John Glyndwr Martin and of the late Antonia Martin of Cardiff, Wales. It was a complete fiction, but a fiction that had changed history. After the war, Ewan Montagu wrote a secret report on the operation detailing every step of the deception. The mission remained confidential until 1953, when Montagu published his book, The Man Who Never Was. In it, he told the story of Major William Martin, but did not reveal the true name of the man whose body had been used. It wasn't until decades later the declassified files finally identified him as Glyndwr Michael. Historians now recognize Operation Mincemeat as one of the most successful deception operations in modern warfare. By using a single body and a handful of forged papers, British intelligence managed to mislead the entire German High Command, including Hitler himself. The consequences were enormous. The Allies captured Sicily, invaded Italy, and eventually toppled Mussolini's regime, all while the Germans continued to prepare for an invasion that would never come. Glyndwr Michael had lived his life in obscurity and died alone in London. But in death, he became one of the most unlikely heroes of World War II. His contribution was invisible, yet his sacrifice helped change the direction of the war. Today, his grave in Huelva still bears the name Major William Martin, but a later plaque was added by the British government to reveal the truth. It reads, Glyndwr Michael, served as Major William Martin, Royal Marines. The story of the man who never was remains one of the most fascinating episodes of World War II. It shows how intelligence, creativity, and deception can alter the fate of nations. In an era dominated by tanks, bombers, and armies, sometimes victory depended not on strength, but on imagination, and on one man who, though he never lived as a soldier, helped to win the war as one.